What up, everyone? DJ News here with you on the Metal Time Radio podcast doing another movie review. This time I'm doing 2022's Skinamarink and directed by Kyle Edward Bell. Cast consists of Dolly Rose Tetrault, who plays Kaylee. Lucas Paul plays Kevin, the two children. Jamie Hill plays Mom, and Ross Paul plays Dad. Not a huge cast, and this movie, the plot: two children wake up in the middle of the night to find their father is missing, and all the windows and doors in their home have vanished. So, while I'll try not to give away too many spoilers here, it is a 2022 film. It's probably been out a couple months, but there's some debate about how good or bad this film is, and I'm going to try to explain why. So I'll just put it out there that there may be spoilers in here, mainly because I think I have to kind of explain what the movie is potentially about at the end of this. So if you are worried about any kind of spoilers going in, or any preconceived ideas of what it might be about, hold off on this and come back when you've seen the film, and then you can judge for yourself whether you think I'm right or wrong, or whether other people are right or wrong about how they're interpreting this film. All right, so after I watching this film, I began watching it, and as it's kind of starting to go on, and I saw the trailer and everything, my first impressions were, well, okay, are we dealing with like demonic possession? So the first thing it clicks, because this is all shot like night vision cam most of the time, and it has the vibe of like Paranormal Activity, sort of. So you have like the night video and whatnot. But it kind of follows the two kids. They're up in the middle of the night, hearing noises, and they're restless, and they're going up and down. There's one point where you never see Dad's face, but you hear him on the phone when he's talking to somebody about Kevin fell down the steps and he hurt himself or hurt his head a little bit, and then we don't really hear much more about that from then on. But Kevin and Kaylee are still kind of running around playing hide and seek, and they're just kids doing kid stuff, but we don't even see their faces. We see a little bit of Kevin's from a side point of view at certain points in the film. We see Kaylee just one moment, but I'll tell you that because it's the only time we really see her face, and it's something different at that point. But yeah, I'm thinking at first, because of the bumps, the knocks, the creaking, the doors kind of opening, I'm thinking, sorry, my eyes are really bothering me. I'm thinking maybe haunting of some type. But then all of a sudden we have points of the film where doors disappear, windows disappear, and even at one point the toilet disappears in one bathroom. Like it's literally just gone. So then I'm thinking, well, this can't be a demonic possession or haunting, because that's not going to happen with a haunting. So maybe alien abduction, maybe. Because at this point, we're still just seeing the two kids by their feet. That's all you really see throughout most of the film is hands and feet. So I throughout this film, I kept kind of going back and forth about whether or not it was either demonic or haunting or aliens, because it really goes back and forth. You think demonic haunting because of there's times where it's not the kid's voice, but like a low semi growl where the voice is calling out from the darkness to one of the kids, mainly Kevin. Come upstairs. Some sort of effect. So again, okay, maybe not aliens. So this film right now is like, it really makes you try to work it out. What's going on? Why is it all real? And this is why this film really comes off almost like a cross between Paranormal Activity and something David Lynch would do. It's very experimental. It plays with cutscenes, and it doesn't give you a lot. There's not a lot of dialogue at all. Like, it's very, very sparse and scarce. There is a point in the film where Kevin's asleep. Kaylee goes upstairs, and then Kevin wakes up, and he doesn't know where she is. So Kevin goes upstairs, and he gets into his parents' bedroom, and now this is sort of because I went through Wiki and read the plot after I saw the movie, because there were some things I was kind of confused on or not clear about, and I'm not even sure if that is accurate, and I'll get into why in a little bit. But apparently, when Kevin comes into the room, you think you hear his dad's voice say, "Look under the bed." It's like, it's still dark. There's no lights on or anything. It's still night vision type shit going on. So Kevin gets down. He looks under the bed. It's just dark. He doesn't see anything. And of course, the one thing this film does do well, it's very creepy. It's got tension building. But for me personally, there was only like 2 jump scares in the film, and outside of that, it just was kind of creepy. It wasn't, Neko told me prior to seeing this, because she was telling me that there was a review that was saying this is the scariest movie of all time, and I'm like, I'll be the judge of that, because look, and I'm not trying to like diss people who really enjoy this film. It's just that I've seen so many horror films, man. Like, when people go do that, because they said the same thing about the Babadook, and I'm just like, no. But there are some decent things about this film. So it has some good points and it has some bad points. But Kevin sits up from looking underneath the bed, and his mom is on the other side of the bed with her back towards us. So again, paranormal type activity type viewpoint. I think, oh shit, is she possessed? Is she going to turn around and jump at him? Like, you're thinking all these things while you're sitting there watching this. And at one point, the mother just simply goes, close your eyes. Or first she says, Mom and Daddy love you a lot, you and Kaylee, and close your eyes. So, of course, the screen goes black. And when he opens it again, the mother's not sitting on the bed anymore. So, and there's no, like, I don't know about how a kid would, one of the things that's been mentioned is this is like a childhood fear type of movie. But if I had done that personally in Kevin's shoes and opened my eyes, my mom was there, I'd be looking like fast about where she went out of fear. Like, you want to know where the fuck they are. It's not, but what they do is it's more like Kevin just slowly pans to what looks like the bathroom in the master bedroom. And so again, it's dark. There's no lights on, nothing, and you don't even see her. But then you hear what sounds like someone like almost getting their neck broken or cracking, and a little bit of heavy breathing. So again, I'm immediately jumping to demonic possession. And then the only thing you really see before it cuts to another scene is this hand comes out from the side of the doorway. So outside of that, again, don't know. And we don't see Dad at all. Aside from that phone call where we hear him, that's it. But we do think that he's still a player in this, because the other voice that's often talking to the kids is more manly. It's not female, unless you think that, of course, demonic possession. Because I've heard people or read people about this, and they've said they think the mother is the villain in this, but I'm not really sure. I'm thinking the male is, just because of that bathroom scene. My guess is Dad's doing something to Mommy, because she does make a statement that somebody else is here with us. But that could mean inner demon, could be anything. So then, so when Kaylee disappeared, so we don't see her for a little bit. Then when Kevin sort of reunites with her, we get our first like frontal face view. It's still kind of half blurry, half dark. If you ever seen a very good movie called Lake Mungo, it's got that kind of graininess. Which this is the one good thing about the film. It's shot in sort of like a 70s, early 80s kind of a grainy type viewpoint. I don't know what kind of film he used to do it, but it came out really nice. It's very old school, not digital, but just very old school. And so we see Kaylee's face, and she's basically sort of have her mouth and her one eye is like molded over with skin. So it's really weird. But it reminded me a lot of Lake Mungo and one of the scenes in that film. Uh like I said, it kind of rides this line where it's trying to be paranormal activity plus be like pretty crazy like David Lynch would do. Very weird set pieces, camera angles and shots. The biggest hurdle for me with this was that it doesn't make a lot of sense, and you really don't know what's going on. Even when I tried to guess aliens or demonic possession and haunting, nothing really added up. It just like because one thing would happen and it would totally like that can't happen under a haunting. That wouldn't happen. But you see other things like toys on top of the ceiling or the voice of stuff going on. You're thinking, okay, demonic or haunting. So, but again, there's all this shit that goes on where you see Kaylee's face. Again, that's most likely not going to happen with a demonic haunting, unless, of course, she herself was being possessed, if that's what the case was. So by the end of this, after I saw this, I was talking with Neko online through WhatsApp, and I told her, I said, I also have a couple of jump scares. I don't understand what the hype is about this film and keep in mind, Rotten Tomatoes, the critics are liking this around 70%, which is pretty good for critics, but the audience is at 43. So whatever hype or article she's been reading, it's not really matching with the audience. The audience came out of it feeling kind of the same way I did. Very boring, very long. This film probably would have been a lot better as a short film. If you would have kept this at like 15 or 20 minutes and took the best parts of it, it probably would have worked really well. Now, I did read that the director who did this, he had initially gathered like nightmare visions from people online, like fans or whatever, and he kind of put them together and made this film out of that in some form. How much of it, I don't know. But for an hour and 40 minutes, it's a lot of plotting, a lot of lull. Again, not a lot of dialogue. You don't really get even the points that you think should be scarier don't end up being scary at all. The ending, again, leaves you kind of confused. And it has the creepiness. It's there. But I don't think this would be something I would say is the scariest movie I've ever seen. And so now I'm going to get to something Neko told me that put the entire film into a whole new context and why I think it actually is what she said it probably is. And she said that people have compared this to child abuse and through the lens of a kid or kids. And after she said that, I looked and remembered everything that I had just watched. And I said, that makes a lot of sense. That actually gives it a whole new context. Forget haunting, forget aliens. Everything she said about the things that I saw in this film, the way things played out, made sense for child abuse. A child would look at a parent who abuses them as a monster, a demon. Kaylee's face being the way it was could be physical abuse. The way that this entity talks to Kevin because Kevin's the one that's there the longest with him, uh, says stuff like, I had to shut Kaylee up. She didn't want to behave. She didn't want to do what she was told. She kept asking for mommy and daddy. So little things like this start to come into place. It makes sense. So I at first, when I was doing this review, I wasn't sure if I wanted to mention that, because had someone told me that going into this film, the whole film would have made entire sense at that point. Like, I could see everything from a child abuse point of view because it makes sense in that context. But I went in blind because I didn't really want to know. Outside of watching the trailer, I didn't really want to know because I like surprises. But this movie, when you don't have any context with it, because nothing's ever explained at all, even at the end, you just come out of it thinking, what the fuck did I just watch? Now, it's possible the director doesn't have any kind, like, maybe it's not about child abuse, but if I'm thinking about it in terms of like that being a possibility, totally makes sense. The movie still isn't like the greatest. Like I said, it's really too long for what it is. It's the first movie that Kyle has done, so it's a decent attempt. But when you keep, in my opinion, when you keep going down this like found footage or paranormal activity type direction, you're not really breaking any new ground. If he did indeed do this from a child's psychological point of view, which he did mention, the director did mention that this is all about childhood fears. So something tells me that it is really about abuse, and that's probably what it is. So I like the idea. If that's really what the plot device was, then great. But I think that it hurts people who go to see this and they don't have any real idea what it's about. Like, all you have is two kids wake up and parents are gone and doors and windows start vanishing. Like, it's really not explaining anything. But at the same time, and maybe you all can talk to me in the comment section or on Twitter or the feed or whatever. Do you think it would hurt your viewing pleasure to go and see this with the knowledge that it might be about child abuse, and say, oh, I think it's actually better in terms of viewing it when you have that context if you don't? Like, I'm curious because a lot of the audience reviews that I was reading about this on Rotten Tomatoes, with mostly people saying it was boring and long and just didn't make it, it was confusing. Well, I think maybe if they had known what it was kind of about going in, they might have come out enjoying it a little bit better. So with that, my rating for this is a 6 out of 10. I don't really have any need to watch it again. I may watch it again. I told Neko I might do it just because, in case there was something I missed at some point, like just little bits here and there, because it does a big job of like staying in focus on one, like a dark corner, or you'll occasionally hear like the little voice. I had subtitles on because otherwise I would have missed some of that too. But yeah, so I don't know, when she told me it was, people were saying it was like child abuse, it totally made sense at that point. So I no longer seem confused about the movie. I think that's probably the most reasonable take to come from this film because of the things that are happening in it. Like, why would a toilet be missing if, say, you're locking your kid in a closet? Because at one point, all you see is the top of one of those swing open doors for a closet space, and then some towels fall. So what if that's a kid hiding in the closet away from dad or mom? As I mentioned, Kaylee, the face issues. And actually, more I think about it, because we were talking about whether or not mom or dad is kind of the villain in this. The end of it, there's an ending portion there where the kid yells out for one of the parents, and I think that's a giveaway, in my opinion. I outside of course what I was telling you about the master bathroom scene, like I still think that kind of leads me to believe that Daddy's the bad guy here. Not to mention, if you go back to the beginning of the film, where Dad's calling somebody about Kevin falling down the steps, was he really falling or was he pushed? Makes you wonder. Yeah, so it's not a scare fest as some people make you believe. It's definitely not the scariest movie I've ever seen, but it's very unsettling, and especially more now that I said in the context of what child abuse. I totally get it. In a lot of ways, I wish I would have known that going in, because then it just would have made more sense. But then at the same time, the whole idea, I think, of this movie is to kind of fuck with you. I think the director kind of wanted someone to watch this and say, well, let's see what they get out of it and see if they pick up on anything, or if they just think it's just about nightmares. And so, I don't know. My best guess, judging by how I perceived the film and saw it, child abuse sounds like it's the angle that I would go with. Makes sense. Anyhow, excuse me. Anyhow, thank you for checking out this video. And if you would, hit subscribe for me and hit some likes. Helps out a lot for the growth of the channel. And appreciate you all checking out this review. Talk at you next time, and have a good night.